Hello, everyone, and welcome to your forecast for Scorpio season, spanning October 23rd to November 21st. We have a lot to talk about today in this video because October and November are just going to be huge astrologically. So much going on, so many things percolating that are going to be the culmination of many things we've been working on all year. If you guys have been feeling really weird recently or anxious, I know I have in the last week or two or so, or if you've been experiencing weird emotions coming up inside, or you just had weird events going on in your world, then you may have already entered your personal eclipse portal. We are fast approaching the last two eclipses of the year, and it is a time of massive change and transformation and destiny. I am going to spend most of this video talking about the eclipses because that is a huge headliner of Scorpio season. At the end, I'm also going to spend some time discussing Jupiter entering Pisces on October 29th and Mars retrograding in Gemini on October 30th, because those are both really important astrological events as well. Again, pointing out to the fact that October and November are huge months of transformation, change, and destiny. I do definitely anticipate that many of us will be going through big life changes in the next 2 months. Whether that is an external change or more of an internal one, I do expect a lot of shifts and release and climaxes. But with all that said, let's dive straight away into the details of the month. I'm going to get started by discussing eclipse season and pointing out on the calendar the important dates that you should really be paying attention to when it comes to the eclipses. So what you see here is the astrology calendar for 2022. If you guys don't know already, you get free access to this as members of Lunar Mission Club. But when it comes to the last two eclipses that we're approaching, the first one falls on October 25th when we have the new moon solar eclipse in Scorpio. And then the next one falls on November 8th when we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus. So October 25th, November 8th, the exact dates of this lunation, really important dates to pay attention to, of course. But with eclipse energy, we do tend to feel it about 2 weeks prior to the first lunation and then 2 weeks after the last one. Eclipses always travel in pairs. There's always two. But what I'm talking about here is that although the first eclipse is on October 25th, we usually do tend to feel it about 2 weeks prior. So the eclipse portal had already opened by October 11th. So as I was saying, if you guys are already feeling weird recently or have been experiencing weird things happening around you, then this may be the reason why, because you guys have already stepped into the eclipse energies. The portal did open around October 11th. Now, the portal will close about 2 weeks after the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus. So around November 22nd, I would say, is the time when the eclipse energies will finally peter out. So we can expect to feel the energies of massive change, destiny, and transformation for about this 6-week period, right up until the next new moon, because of course that's when new lunar energy enters the collective. But I just want to point out that when I talk about eclipse season, I am really talking about the 6-week period that we've already entered, when we're likely to feel these energies of life changes and life shifts. Now, what does this all mean for you and what you can expect? When it comes to eclipse season, the 6-week period, there are two main keywords I want you guys to keep in mind, and that is karma and destiny. Karma and destiny. Eclipse season is all about karma and destiny. So it's really going to be affecting our karma, our past lives, our soul experiences, our baggage, our childhood conditioning, our childhood wounds. It's all about the past, and also about our destiny, which is about our future calling, our higher purpose, what our soul is here to do and accomplish, the whole reason why we reincarnated onto Earth to begin with, right? So it's all about karma and destiny. On a scientific level, the reason why that is because the eclipses are tied to the nodes of the moon, the north node of destiny and the south node of karma. So we either have a north node eclipse or a south node eclipse. So with all that said, we have to understand that eclipse season and that 6-week period of time is really a moment where the universe helps us shed our karmic baggage. It helps us shed our karma and our past, which can look like shedding old relationships, shedding toxic jobs, shedding old beliefs or limiting mindsets. It's all about shedding things that no longer serve us And with that release, it helps us step into our future destiny, which is all about aligning to our higher calling, doing what we truly love, doing things that fulfill us and that really light us up inside, right? Again, the whole reason why we came to Earth to begin with. And the way, the mechanism that the universe delivers this shedding and alignment is through wake-up calls, the feeling of divine intervention, right? Like the universe is taking the wheel and taking control over our lives and really making things happen in ways that are much faster than we could accomplish on our own. So eclipse season is really a time when we're being pushed to release karma and step into our destiny faster than we could do on our own. And oftentimes that means experiencing the loss of something or experiencing the sudden opportunity of something that really propels us forward on our destiny. So again, really understand that this 6-week period is a time of destiny when the universe takes the wheel. With that, some things to expect are that things are going to feel amplified for the next couple of months. Again, October and November, I feel like it's really hot energetically. And so things may feel more amplified. Things may feel more emotional. Things may feel more anxious as well, especially with Scorpio energy, which can really bring up a lot of our fears and triggers. And so expect things to feel emotional. Also expect that this is a time period where things may feel a little bit more out of your control. Again, eclipse season is really all about the universe taking the wheel and letting the universe directing our lives rather than us trying to force things to happen, right? So this can be a time when it kind of feels like we're more out of control because the universe is bringing what we need. Maybe not what we want, but what we need. I just want you guys to anticipate that and also kind of embrace this feeling of being out of control and really see it as a good thing, because I do see that us as human beings, we try too hard to control everything. We try too hard to make things happen or force things to happen or push our way forward. And October and November, we really have the permission to let the universe take control and to let the universe deliver what we need for our highest good. And when we let go of control, we really open ourselves up to new possibilities. Because if we always try to do things our own way without any help from the universe, then we really wouldn't get very far. So this is a beautiful time to let go of control and accept help. Okay, now let's talk about the zodiac signs and what kind of energy they bring to the eclipses. Because of course, the eclipses fall in Taurus and Scorpio, and those two signs really rule the very practical matters of life and also the financial matters of life. And so money has been a huge theme for all of us this year, but more specifically, Taurus is a sign that rules money, income, financial security, how safe we feel with our resources. It rules our material possessions, the things that we own or the things that we want to buy. Taurus also rules our self-worth, how worthy and deserving we feel, which directly correlates to how much money we make. So it's been a year of us amplifying our own self-worth. It's also been a year where we have been getting more in touch with our physical body and being present in the physical form, also in nature as well. So all those key themes of Taurus have been eclipse lessons for us this year. Now, the other side of that is Scorpio, of course. Like I said, Scorpio is also a sign of money. Specifically, it rules business, so it rules money that you make with other people. Those are areas of life that may come into view in the next 6 weeks. It also rules your debts, though, and the money that you owe to other people. So if you have any outstanding debts or bills or taxes to pay, you may definitely see those coming up in the next couple of weeks. Now, besides money, Scorpio is a very complex sign. It also rules intimacy and sex. And so there have been key themes key lessons to be learned around relationships for many of us this year. Our intimate relationships, how vulnerable we can be, how honest we can be to our partners, letting go of relationship fears, all of that. Now, the other side of Scorpio also is about death, endings, release, and transformation. So many of you guys may have been experiencing endings this year. There is a sense that this is a year where we really have to cut ties with the past in a very strong way so that we can step into our personal power. Power is such a huge theme of Scorpio as well, because the more powerful we feel, the more confident in our skin we feel, the easier it is to attract things like money or love or intimacy. And so just saying that when it comes to eclipses, throughout this entire year of 2022, some of the main lessons or themes that we have been learning have been around money, relationships and intimacy, and personal power. So we have all been experiencing massive changes in these areas in the last year. So I want you guys to think about that for yourself as well. How has your relationship to money changed, or your personal relationships in general? Or have you been able to cut out things that are making you feel powerless so that you can step into things that are making you feel more powerful? Whatever it is, we've all been experiencing change in this area, and you may want to think back specifically to what you might have been experiencing in April and May, because back in April and May, we also had eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio. So whatever big events you might have experienced in April and May, you may find that some of those things resurface, or their new developments come up in October and November. So again, think back to April and May, because that might be a clue to what you'll experience in October and November. Now, I will say though that, of course, everyone experiences eclipses differently, and you will experience eclipses the most intensely this year if you have fixed signs in your zodiac chart, if you have a lot of fixed sign placements. Now, the fixed signs are Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. So if you are someone who happens to have those signs in your big three, or in your Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Chiron, North Node, or South Node, then you will most likely feel this eclipse really strongly, and you will most likely have major life changes in the next 2 months. I can speak for that myself personally, because I have Taurus, Leo, Aquarius in my big three, along with other fixed sign placements. And so I've definitely been experiencing major changes in all these areas this year. Many of you guys probably know that I had a really traumatic breakup in April and May. So I definitely went through the eclipse portal back then and stepped into the ending of my relationships. Now that we're approaching October and November, there's actually new activity happening with my ex that just started popping off like a week ago. And so I definitely feel like a continuation of this eclipse energy. But again, you will feel the eclipses more strongly if you have fixed sign placements. Last year was all about mutable signs. This year is about fixed signs. Next year is going to be about cardinal signs, but that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so with that said, now I'm going to do a deep dive into each of the eclipses and what you can expect, because the new moon solar eclipse is going to bring a really powerful new beginning, whereas the full moon lunar eclipse is going to bring a culmination or a climax of energy. So let's dive into that. Again, we have a new moon solar eclipse in Scorpio on October 25th. Now, you guys probably know new moons bring new beginnings. It is a start of a new chapter where you can invite new energy into your life. And when it's an eclipse charged new moon, it can definitely bring like a supercharged new beginning where things happen really quickly, or this new beginning unfolds way faster than you expected. So we should definitely expect us to be pushed towards a new beginning around October 25th. But like I was mentioning before, this solar eclipse is actually a South Node eclipse, all about our karma, our past, and releasing baggage. So what that says to me is that we are about to experience a new beginning, but that requires us to experience an ending first. Something needs to end or be released or removed out of our life so that we can start something new. And the new beginning is going to be in the Scorpio matters of money, business, intimacy, sex, transformation, or personal power. So, you guys can imagine perhaps around this eclipse, you experience the sudden end of a relationship. But of course, that feels really bad and it really sucks. But the ending of that is what creates room for maybe you to focus more on work, or to really pursue your passions, and to really create a new timeline of abundance in money. That's one way this eclipse can manifest. The ending of something begins the start of something new, which is going to bring you greater intimacy, greater abundance, and greater personal power. So I do want to say that we should all be expecting some kind of release or ending around this date. That can be a literal ending, like something actually exiting your life, but can also be more of an emotional or mental one where you finally release some baggage, or you forgive someone, or you forgive yourself, or you just say goodbye to like an old argument that you've had, or something that you really don't want this emotional weight to burden you anymore. And that it's time with this portal for that baggage to be released. Now, I know all this talk about endings can sound really scary. But I do want to give you guys some hope and excitement, because the exciting thing about this eclipse is that it aligns super closely to Venus. It's like a couple degrees away from Venus, which is the planet of love and harmony and relationships. And so it does tell me that even if you experience an ending of some sorts or a cutting of ties or a release, it is going to be a loving one. It's going to be a loving ending. It's going to be a graceful ending or a compassionate ending. All the words that we associate with Venus, right? So it can also mean that we need to follow our hearts when we are deciding what to close out from our life or what to exit. But I just want to point out that this conjunction to Venus really makes me feel like it's going to feel good actually to let this go. It's going to feel good to say goodbye to this. So that's something that's really exciting for you guys to lean into. I will say that this eclipse also falls at 2 degrees of Scorpio. So you may want to check where 2 degrees of Scorpio falls on your chart in terms of the houses, because that house is the specific area of life where you may need to end something or say goodbye to something or just close a chapter in that area of life. If you guys are part of Lunar Mission Club, I am going to be holding a moon circle for this eclipse on October 25th, where I'm going to go through each house one by one. So you may want to join us for that. But in general, for this eclipse, here are some reflection questions that I want to pose for you guys. One is to ask yourself, of course, what needs to die in my life so that my true power can be reborn? What needs to die so that something else can be reborn? This theme of like death and rebirth is very on point for Scorpio. And of course, we are entering Scorpio season, which really amplifies this energy of death and release. But what needs to die so that something else can be born in its place? Now, with that, another thing that I want you guys to reflect on is the balance really between your shadow self and your higher self. Scorpio energy is very much about tapping into our shadow self as well, kind of tapping into our own darkness and going deep within to face our fears, our triggers, our shadows, our blockers. So this is a moon that may challenge you to really go deep within, be honest with yourself, or be vulnerable with yourself. Face your fears and figure out, is this fear actually serving me, or is it something that served me in the past but I no longer need anymore? This moon may bring up the need for you to face your fears or to release the fear of failure. A lot of times, many of us get blocked because we're afraid to fail, so we just end up doing nothing. I think this new moon eclipse is really going to help us shed a lot of that fear, basically, so that you can express more of your higher self and your personal power. It's really all about letting go of things that make us feel powerless. So I want you guys to think about that. Okay, so with all that said, now let's go into the next lunar eclipse. The next eclipse is the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus on November 8th. Now, I said new moons bring new beginnings. Full moons bring culmination and climax. Full moons are a time of like energetic peak where things finally get finished or completed or ended or released. So around November 8th, when we have this lunar eclipse, we can expect that something is completed around this time. Something that you have been working on for a long time, especially if you started working on it around April and May when we had the first eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio. Something may be completed or culminated. It may be time to launch something. It may be time to like really put your work out there. Full moons are a great time to publicize yourself, actually. So this can be a time where something is completed, or you finally achieve a goal, or you finally reach the end of a journey that you've been on. It is also a time sometimes, though, with full moons that something is ended. It does have the theme of endings and release as well. So this can also be a time where the universe helps you end something that is no longer in your highest good, that is no longer serving us. It can mean the sudden loss of something, but of course, every loss should be translated into a new opportunity, and the universe is delivering exactly what we need. So around this moon, I think many of us can expect to either celebrate the completion of a project or to launch a project. It may be the release or ending of something that's been getting in the way of our self-worth and how deserving we feel. With full moons, it can also be a time where we need to end and release unhealthy patterns around specifically money, income, financial security, and our self-worth. So again, very Taurus theme. So if you have voices or stories in your head telling you, you can't make money doing what you love, or you need to suffer to make money, or money is hard to make, those are some of the unhealthy voices and patterns that may need to be released around this eclipse. Now, we have to understand that while this is primarily about full moons, endings, release, culmination, it's also a North Node eclipse, which means that it's also tied to our destiny or moving forward in some way. It's a very interesting dichotomy of energy. But with this being a North Node eclipse, that often means that it can mean two main things. One is that you meet someone, or you meet a group of people that is a fated soulmate connection almost. Like you meet someone that you're karmically destined to meet, that you have like a soul tie to. You meet people or a group, it could be online or in person, that kind of introduces new energy, new ideas, new thought patterns into you. So the meeting of someone or the meeting of a fated connection can be something that helps you release unhealthy patterns, or to really celebrate and launch a project, whatever is being culminated and finished around this time. So a North Node eclipse, you can meet someone that you're destined to meet. It can also just mean that something becomes aligned in your life. It's kind of the vibe of something falling into place really easily. So also think about how you can maybe meditate on this vibe around November 8th, because with a North Node eclipse, things that have been blocked again, or things that didn't feel like they were moving, something can fall into place easily now, or something can finally move forward without hesitation or blockers. Now, this eclipse is also specifically aligning with Uranus, which is the planet of shocks, surprises, and liberation. So it does feel like the energy around November 8th is quite shocking. It's quite liberating. That is the main higher goal of Uranus, is to liberate us from things that are stifling us, restricting us, not making us feel like our true authentic selves, or making us feel like we can't be ourselves. So there's a lot of energy that something is going to be shocking around this time, or there's going to be a surprising meeting with someone that you're destined to meet, or it's going to be something falling into place really easily and surprisingly. Those are some of the energies to anticipate around this eclipse. Now, this moon will specifically fall at 16 degrees of Taurus. So again, look at your chart to see where 16 degrees of Taurus falls in terms of the houses, because that might be the specific area of life where you either have something to complete, like something gets finished in that area, or there's something to celebrate, or something to end and release. Again, I think around November 8th, like really mid-November, it's going to be an energetic climax of a lot of things, where a lot of the work that we've been working on in the last couple of months this year is coming into fruition, coming into climax. It is a time of manifestation as well. So things that you have been working on, or goals that you've been setting, now is a time for manifestation. It is also a time of reveals, though, I will say, with the full moon lunar eclipse. And I do anticipate, even on a collective scale, that there may be truths revealed. Something comes out of the blue, or something comes out of the shadows, comes out of the depths of Scorpio. So those are all some of the things that we may anticipate around this specific eclipse in November. And just want to make a really quick side note about what to expect on a collective scale for October and November, but also just generally the time period that we're living in, because like I said, we've been having eclipses in Scorpio for this entire year, and Scorpio is all about a balance of power and figuring out who gets to be in power and who gets to be in charge. That has been a main theme of this year, but I also see that as a broader theme of the last couple of years, specifically the time period from 2020 to 2025. And I point out this specific time period because of a number of astrological events. One, which is America's Pluto return, which spans from 2020 to 2025. But we're in this like 5-year period, this first half of the 2020 decade, where we're really seeing the collapse of the old system and hopefully the emergence of a new that is more beneficial to the majority. But we're really seeing the collapse of the old. And in 2022, we're really in the thick of it right now, where a lot of things are crumbling. This year has been super interesting to me, seeing all this like play out. I'm thinking like the death of the queen is something that I attribute to this as well, like a literal death of someone who was in power for decades now, almost a century. I'm also thinking like the recent protests that we've been seeing in Beijing against Xi Jinping, who is basically a dictator in in that country. Earlier this year, we also saw some little protests against Kim Jong-un as well, who is the dictator of North Korea. But we're definitely seeing like little bursts of uprisings all around the world. Again, this is a time period where the old system is collapsing, basically. Of course, we can basically tell, right? The energy that's around us is so divisive, it's so scary, it's so fearful. It's like the last gasp of the old system. By 2025, we should see new people in power. I will say who is in power then depends on what we do now. Of course, there is a new system emerging. The new system can be something that's still tied to the 1%, the elites, basically. And what we're doing now in 2022, 2023, 2024, super important because we want to see new people in power by 2025. And what we can be doing this year, just personally in our own little lives, is to use these eclipses to really hone in on our personal power, which means letting go of things or people or situations that make us feel powerless and out of control, and really focusing daily on things that make us feel powerful. Just by us doing this on a micro level, like in our individual lives, it doesn't feel like it impacts much, right? With just us in our little own like selves, in our own lives. But just by us doing this work of claiming our power in our everyday lives, that energy is rippling out into the collective, and that is what is helping all of society go through this shift in power dynamics. And it is exactly what we need to be doing at this time in order to ensure that new people who are in favor of the 99% are in power by 2025. And so don't think that you are powerless, because you're not. Like, you are so important in this spiritual transition and shift, basically. And the more that you can hone in on your personal power, the easier it will be for the collective. So that's just something to think about as we go through these crazy times. Okay, so with all that said, I'm going to close out this forecast by discussing the two other important events of October and November, as if eclipses were not crazy enough already. But there are two other things going on. One is the Jupiter entering Pisces on October 29th. And the second is Mars retrograding in Gemini on October 30th. Now, to discuss this, what you're seeing on the screen here is the 2022 astro timeline, which, again, you get access to this as a member of Lunar Mission Club, but this is just showing really the astrological changes of the entire year, right? And the first thing I want to discuss is Jupiter entering Pisces. Now, you guys can actually see that Jupiter was in Pisces at the start of this year. In January, February, March, April, it was in Pisces all the way until May, when it entered Aries. However, in August, Jupiter started retrograding. That's what these hands mean. And then by October 29th, Jupiter is going to retrograde back into Pisces. And you can see here the important date that I've noted, October 29th, Jupiter enters Pisces. Now, Jupiter is going to be in Pisces until December 20th. October 29th to December 20th. And you can see by December 20th, it re-enters Aries again. But we have this about like 2-month period where Jupiter is in Pisces. This is super important because Jupiter is not going to be in Pisces for another 12 years now. So after December 20th, Jupiter is not going to re-enter the sign of Pisces until 12 years from now, 2034 maybe. And we want to pay attention to this because Jupiter is the planet of luck and success and abundance and opportunity. So when Jupiter is in Pisces, the next 2 months are kind of like the last period where we have mega luck in Pisces for the next 12 years. Again, Jupiter in Pisces bringing a lot of luck and success and natural growth of all matters of Pisces. Now, when it comes to Pisces and what that rules, I think there are two key things to tell you guys. One is that Pisces rules art and creativity. So anything that requires your imagination and requires you to dream or fantasize or visualize and create divinely inspired art, that is one aspect of Pisces. Another aspect of Pisces is spirituality and healing. Anything that helps us transcend the physical realm, anything that helps us heal our body emotionally, physically, and mentally. But with creativity, art, spirituality, and healing, the next 2 months until December 20th are really a great time, one of the best times in the next 12 years to get started in these activities or to plant seeds with them. So I'm thinking that if you are an artist and you have artistic projects that you have been working on, this is a great time to focus on them or to sell them, to push them out there, to promote yourself. If you want to be getting started with art, this is a great time to plant seeds on any new projects. If you are a healer or doing any type of spiritual or metaphysical work, this is a great time to put your services out there. This is a great time to promote yourself and to allow the universe to bring you the people who need your medicine. Of course, this is a great time for other people to seek spiritual guidance. So if you've been wanting to purchase a reading or get a reading before the end of the year, it's a great time to do so. It's also a great time for anyone who wants to learn a new spiritual modality, such as tarot. Maybe you want to get more into tarot or learn more astrology. Again, the next 2 months are a beautiful time to start down that path and start planting seeds. If you have any health issues, this is a great time to seek healing, both, of course, in traditional medicinal ways, but also in new age ways as well. So it might be a great time to get checkups from your doctors or to try new age things like Reiki or flotation therapy, even like mushrooms and psychedelics are very Pisces as well. So again, just pointing out on the calendar that this period of time with Jupiter and Pisces, really great time to solidify or start any work that is of a creative or spiritual nature. Now, finally, the last thing I want to point out is Mars retrograding in Gemini, which is going to start on October 30th and go all the way until January of next year. So we're already entering next year. But you guys can see Mars here in the timeline. It has been in Gemini for quite some time now, but it's about to start retrograding. That's what these symbols mean. It's about to start retrograding on October 30th. Now, Mars retrograde is important to pay attention to because it's rare. The rarer a retrograde, the more important it is. I know people focus on Mercury retrograde, but it actually happens 3 times a year, whereas Mars retrograde only happens every 2 years. Mars is a planet of action, of our willpower, our physical energy. It's about our motivation and our passions. It is known as the warrior planet. And so when the warrior planet goes backwards, it actually becomes harder to express all of those things. It becomes harder to feel motivated. It feels harder to have physical energy. It feels harder to take action, actually. So I know this can sound scary and unwanted and debilitating, but I want to point out that for the last 2 months of the year, this is a time when we may be feeling a little bit more depleted in energy. We may be feeling a little bit more tired or lacking in motivation, but that is all happening on purpose and probably well timed with the eclipses as well, because after some major life changes, we need space to reflect and think about, okay, what actually motivates me? What actually makes me feel passionate or fired up? What turns me on in life? That is a big question of Mars, is like, what turns me on? Whether that's a person or a job or a situation, and how can I do more of that? Because as long as we align to things that turn us on, that make us feel feisty and passionate and fired up, then it's easy to take action. It's easy to make things happen. It's easy to just be that warrior Mars planet. And so just saying, expect the last 2 months of the year to be a time where you may need to take more rest, to not force yourself to do things if it's not feeling motivating. It can also be a time that triggers anger issues in some people. Mars is also about anger and aggression, and in retrograde, it can bring more angry outbursts. So that might be something that you need to face within yourself or to also deal with other people as well. But use this time to take a step back and think about what truly motivates me and what truly turns me on, because those are we will be able to find those answers easily in November and December. Now, like I said, Mars is retrograding in Gemini, so that does mean that we will be feeling quite communicative still. We may really need to talk things out with people to understand these thoughts and insights more clearly, or we may need to journal on them, because as much as we can just get our thoughts out onto paper or onto just vocally communication-wise, that's going to help us understand and answer the question of what actually turns me on and how can I take fearless action towards that. If you have been feeling blocked on something, or you've been feeling like something is not moving forward, or you can't take action on it, this is a great time to self-reflect on why that might be so and what is keeping you feeling unmotivated or unable to take the action that you want. And all in all, it's really a great time to find better ways to tap into your inner warrior and into the part of yourself that's really fearless and that's really courageous and not afraid to do things that are kind of wild or passionate or out there. So again, that is all of what to expect in October and November. All of this energy is really going to take us through the end of the year. I know that some things can seem scary, but just understand that everything that is coming for you is for your highest good. And it's because we're not making enough progress on our own. And the universe wants to help us move faster than we could on our own. So with all that said, please let me know if you have any questions or want me to help you interpret what's going on in your charts. Of course, I always love to answer those questions in the club and in the feed if you want to share your charts and stuff. But with all that said, I hope you guys have a really wonderful and empowering eclipse season that really helps you show the source of your true personal power. Okay, guys, bye.